All right, good evening, everyone. This is the February 1st, 2021 Conservation Commission meeting. My name is Bruce Lofgren. I am Town of Groton staff in the Office of Planning and Development Services. The chair of the meeting is Larry Dunn. If anyone in the public would like to participate during public communications portion of this meeting, you can do so by raising your virtual hand. Depending on what kind of device you're on, you can either find the hand on the bottom of the screen or the top of the screen. Also, if you're on a phone, you can dial *9 and we will see that you have a hand up and we'll call on you one at a time. With that, I'll pass over to Larry to do the roll call and start the meeting.
All right, I think the easiest thing is I'll just read names and you guys can announce yourself. So Larry Dunn, chairman. Tom.
Tom Olson, member.
Karen.
Karen Scapino, member.
Michelle.
Michelle Fitzpatrick, secretary.
Ray.
Ray Rafferty, vice chair.
Kristen.
Kristen Distante, member.
And Ann. You're on mute.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, you gotta go on mute. There she is.
There we go. Ann Schmidt, member.
All right, that's it. And I just saw one attendee out there. All right, we have a lot to do today. That's roll call. So the first item is the approval of the minutes. Those were distributed. I would ask, is there?
So should we make a motion to approve and then discuss?
Yes.
Or we start with the December ones?
December 7th.
Ray seconds it. That's the motion.
Yeah, I'll move to approve the meeting. So I have a question, Larry, and I haven't even paid attention to this part of previous minutes, but in the beginning where it has the list of people, it has you as chair, me as secretary, but doesn't have Bray as vice chair, just has Bray listed later. Shouldn't he be listed as vice chair?
He should be listed as vice chair. Yeah.
And both sets of minutes are that way. And again, I apologize. I didn't even look at previous ones to see if that was still true.
No, I asked about that a while ago, and for some reason they said they couldn't put the word vice chair in it. It's through a computer program called.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I wanted to have Bray be vice chair a while ago, but I didn't even think it was secretary. So maybe they're starting to add new options. So I'll get to that.
Okay.
All right. Any other comments on the December 7th minutes?
Yes. In the roll call, Tom Olson is misspelled. Olson. Sorry, Tom. And then in the public comments, 3.1, it's Barbara Van Drimmelman. So VAN space and then capital DRIMMELEN. So it got cut off somehow. And she's actually chair of the conservation committee in the Mystic Garden Club. So she's not chairman of the club.
The Mystic Garden Club. Okay.
Mystic Garden Club, yeah. And then, what happened to the other? Diane Stanzione is the former chairman of the conservation committee in the Mystic Garden Club. And she was gonna let me know who would be an actual contact person. I was hoping to have that before the meeting so that we could have it in the minutes, but she hasn't gotten back to me. So.
All right, thank you.
And then in 4.4, open space.
4.4, yep.
Open space ordinance. Tom Olson briefly went of the updated ordinance. I went over the updated ordinance, I think, is what that's.
Good catch.
And then, now Kristen, I'm surprised you didn't find this one. For 4.5, your name is misspelled. It's Kristen with an I at the end. Kristen.
Thank you. Yes, I always find that.
Report of the chairman. I don't think it's CAPPIWIC. I think it's CACIWC.
Caciwick.
Is that correct?
Khaki, yeah, there's C's in there.
CACIWC.
I believe that's correct. I'd have to look it up myself, to tell you the truth.
I Googled CAPPIWIC and nothing came up, but the khaki did.
Yeah, I think it's the C. I agree.
That was it.
Very good, thank you.
You're
Very
welcome.
thorough. Any other comments? Michelle, would you amend the motion to include
Yes.
those changes?
Yes, I move that we approve the minutes as amended.
Ray?
I
Second,
will second the motion.
All right, all in favor? Just raise your
Mhm.
hands. I think we're good. I see 5 hands. All right, 6 hands,
6.
7. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
That
6,
was
7.
7, including you.
I can't count. 7 hands. All right, next item of business is the next meeting I'm looking for here, January 4th.
Yeah, I move that we approve the minutes of January 4th.
second,
All right, now let's look at this, see if everybody's name is spelled right.
Kristen, you were there, right?
I was not there.
No, you were not there. So on all of the roll or voting, so Kristen,
Yeah, the roll call is correct, but the,
No, the roll call has her there.
has her there. Roll call should be absent. Distante.
oh, I'm sorry, I read it wrong. All right. Yep.
And then the only other thing I saw was in 4.4, again, that the open space ordinance has the same typo that Tom Folsom briefly went of. It should be went over.
Yep.
And that's it that I saw.
All right, anything else? Okay, would you like to amend?
Yes,
the
I amend my
motion?
motion to include approving the minutes as amended.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. All right,
Am I allowed?
unanimous.
You're allowed. It's your choice.
Oh, because I wasn't there, so I don't know if I could approve the minutes. Or not.
Yeah, you can either approve or you can abstain. It's your choice.
Yep, it's your choice.
That's y'all.
All right, and now the next item on the agenda is public communications, and we do have an attendee. We have Liz is out there.
Liz, I'll allow you to talk. Then you just need to unmute yourself.
There. Okay.
Yep, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everybody. This is Liz Raisbeck, co-chair of Groton Conservation Advocates. I think you all know me, with the exception of Karen, whom I haven't met yet. I just had a couple of short comments I wanted to make. One is I wanted to commend the commission on the amazing work you have done in researching all the deeds of public land and figuring out who owns every property and whether they're protected. Just on behalf of GCA, commend you for that really important work that you have done. The second thing I want to say is that I don't know if you received it yet. I sent to Larry and to Bruce a copy of GCA's PowerPoint presentation, which Eugenia will present tomorrow evening at the town council on the issue of synthetic turf coming to Groton in a big way. As I think you're probably aware, the athletic Fields Task Force has made a recommendation that Groton should include 5, maybe 6 additional fields to what they have, besides redoing fields that they already have. And they recommend that most of those fields be laid in synthetic turf. We have done a lot of research on synthetic turf, and I commend to you our PowerPoint, which doesn't take all that long to go through. It has a number of very interesting links. This is a wave of plastic coming at Groton with significant economic, health, and environmental consequences. And plastic bags and straws, etc., probably are small in comparison to the amount of plastic pollution these fields are going to bring to Groton. So on behalf of GCA, I want to encourage the Conservation Commission to get into this issue before the town council makes a decision on it. They have graciously invited us to make a presentation in response to the Athletic Fields Task Force presentation a couple of weeks ago. We are not against new fields. We support new fields, but we strongly believe for the health of the town and its citizens and the environment, they should be grass. So I commend this issue to you and hope you will look into it. That's it.
Thank you. I did receive a copy of it, and I gave back my personal comments. The concern was that we had missed our cutoff, in terms of distribution on the agenda. But my thought is that I think it's like 0 probability that there'll be any decision tomorrow, that it'll be, under advisement. And what I would propose is that, Bruce, that you send out the final presentation, or it'll be available, I guess, from the town website or as they submit it, and that we could bring it up no later than our next meeting, unless we hear of a plan or a timing where, there might be a decision beforehand. I think they do 2 meetings a month. So I suspect that we will have an opportunity. What I would intend to do is to reach out to the town council and just indicate that we would like an opportunity to weigh in on it. That's assuming that the commission supports that approach. But I think we would not have time to be able to have a formal response, a discussion and a formal response to allow us to, participate in tomorrow's meeting. So let me throw that open for discussion. Is that a reasonable approach, or someone like to be more aggressive?
Could I comment, Larry?
Sure.
They haven't begun to dig into the actual cost of these fields. So I don't think anything is going to happen very quickly.
Right.
And
that was my thought as well. I don't think they understand the cost of this thing.
I think you'll have plenty of time to weigh in.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
So any discussions in terms of the public comments from Liz? Oh, Tom?
Yeah, I appreciate the insight and the obviously some work's been done. I haven't seen the presentation yet, and I look forward to reviewing it. I know that from listening in on a lot of the issues that were brought up by the task force, they're kind of hard over on getting this synthetic turf from a lot of reasons. And so I don't know if, are we looking at no synthetics no matter what kind, or are there different kind of synthetics? I think that's one of the questions that I have in my mind right now is what are the alternatives to different kinds of synthetics that are out there that would balance the environmental issues with the maintenance issues that the task force is working with, and trying to find a medium in here that I think is also an alternative here, rather than just totally rejecting and saying, I'm a little put off to some degree by a wave of plastic, but type of, and I don't know what was put in some of these other locations and what's being looked at that is so detrimental. Obviously, I think it's a pretty wide open spectrum that we need to have in our considerations as we look forward here. But I look forward to taking a look at what was being presented tomorrow, and I'll try to review that as the presentation in retrospect. Thank you.
All right, which is a good point. So Bruce, can we get a copy of or point us to where the task force report is? That would kind of answer Tom's question. So they have a set of data, GCA has a set of data, kind of why we need the time to look at it. So I agree with Tom, we need to look at both sides to provide a reasoned feedback to the council. Other comments or feedback?
This is Kristen. Just nothing. One of the big problems, aside from the daily use and the kind of wear and tear on the athletes themselves, is the end product of these things. Like when they have a finite life, like maybe 8-10 years, whatever it is, I don't know. But at the end of it, you have to dispose of them, and that is extremely costly. I think we have to do our research, but that might be something to really make sure the town understands, that when you want to get rid of one of these things, it's like, imagine getting rid of a rug the size of a soccer field. Like there's a lot of costs associated with it, and it takes a lot of landfill space. It's not cheap to get rid of these things. So that has to be fully understood from the get-go.
That's in the presentation.
It is, okay.
From Liz, yep. Karen, you raised your hand?
You answered the question for me. It's in the presentation. I was involved years ago in exploring artificial turf, and I know it's changed a lot. I apologize. But getting rid of it or finding a place that would accept it was very, very difficult.
All right, other comments? All right, so Bruce, we'll get it on the agenda for next month. And if we get those two pieces of information, we'll get the presentation that they're gonna do tomorrow and the task force report, and allow us to have that discussion. And I will also reach out to the town council and kind of give them a heads up that, as I said before, we want to take a look at this and provide some input. So those would be the three actions coming out of.
Will you email that to us, or will we go look for it on the town website?
No, Bruce will either provide a link to it, or he'll send it out for us as part of our normal distribution of material.
Yeah, I can send the PowerPoint that Liz sent out today. I can forward that to everyone, and then the task force report. I gotta ask a couple people to try to find that. But as soon as I have it, I can give it to everyone earlier than the packet distribution, if you prefer, because
yeah, no, that'd be good. Yeah, it's sometimes tough to find things on the town website.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been finding out. Hey, Bray, raised your hand.
Yes, I agree with having it ahead of time. I find that the packets are big on Friday afternoon or Saturday morning just before the meeting, and don't necessarily have the time to go through everything that's there. So it would be nice to have this information ahead of time. So when Bruce can find the links to those, if he could just send them out, whether it's a week or 2 weeks from now, that'd be appreciated.
All right, very good. All right, so we have a plan to go forward there, and let me, my notes. All right, next item of business. Now this one's interesting, that one of the things we had talked about in the past was the ability for the Conservation Commission to weigh in on the reuse of town property. Do you have that? Was that memo in here? I think it was in here.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So it's in there, page 12 on the meeting agenda handout, or the And basically, does indicate that we would be part of the process. And again, it's at the discretion of the town manager. And then subsequent to that, on page 13, was a specific request on 2 properties. So we got to go back to the generic. I think it's a positive evolution, if you will, that now we're now part of the process. So I think that's a good thing.
It's a very good thing.
So the next thing is then to execute based upon that request. There wasn't a date on when we would have to get it back by, but it does say at your next regularly scheduled meeting, which is today. And did do a quick subcommittee session before this to kind of look at the information. I did run through the economic model on both properties, and there's some additional information. I don't know if that got distributed, Bruce, the letter that we got in late. I'm trying to remember.
They have a letter for the sidewalk for the Zero Flanders Road, that one?
Yes.
Yeah, that Deborah sent to.
Yeah, okay, so all right, so you guys saw that. All right, I'm trying to remember.
Yep.
So
Yeah, that's in the package. That starts on page 14. It is 14, but yeah, page 14.
So, yeah, just quickly is I'll give you the economic model feedback. So when we got to the 1208 Pequannock Road, there's basically 0 economic value from an open space point of view. It's, as you know, it's right there, and there's kind of a barren piece of property. It's only an acre, 0.94 acres, something like that. On the Zero Flanders Road, there was a positive economic value on the open space side of about $28,000 a year. There was a negative to the town of about minus $37,000 a year. And again, I made some assumptions on the development, residential development that would be put there, assuming that was it, because it's right in the middle of, I know it's commercial, but there's residential across the street. I took those values, looked at what could be put in there. And so what that means is that if it was sold and then created as single family housing units, then basically the town would lose money. The taxes, the services rendered versus the taxes received. So, 2 totally different answers from that perspective. Then when you look at the other non-economic factors, so Tom did an analysis, and I don't know if Michelle, you had a chance to do any updates to the path, but Tom, you want to go a quick summary of what you found in terms of the green belt and how that is positioned with the other properties?
Yes, it's Tom Olson. As far as the green, we looked at where we had in both in the POCD as well as in the open space conservation plan. This property is actually right on a green belt that we're trying to develop in moving forward with the conservation plan, where you're trying to get an east-west corridor connection from the properties to the north, which includes the town dump and the Connecticut State Wildlife Management Area on the opposite side of I-95, as well as to the Gossa's property, the sheep farm, and their expansions downward. So this property fits very well in there. I've also had discussions with Groton Open Space, and they have had discussions with the abutter here, the properties to the west of this Flanders Road, because there, as it's been mentioned, there's been some logging there. They've tried to have developments in the past, and so the GOSA does have their eye on this also as a very prosper, be essentially their sheep farm north extension, essentially. So they've had some discussions. There's nothing formal or anything like that, but this is, and I have personally walked that property, and It has some value to it. There's a number of streams and stuff. It's very well connected. There's areas for good for wildlife, particularly now that there's been the logging's been done, and so the coppicing essentially in a lot of the areas is there to provide a more diverse wildlife opportunities abutting this property. The town property, there's been no logging or anything there, and just as it's been mentioned in the letter that's attached in our packet here in regard to what the Parks and Recs view with relative to the disc golf, but that's about the only thing that all the only other additional information I have on it. That's all I've got. Thank you.
All right, Michelle?
Yeah, this is Michelle Fitzpatrick. So it looks like from that letter, people are already using it for recreation. And I was just wondering if one of the possible dispensations of it would be to turn it over to GOSA to take care of. Is that, Tom, is that something that GOSA would actually want to accept?
I can't speak for GOSA. I'm not on their board and haven't had any formal discussions with them. I told that they do know that the town is looking at this and evaluating, and that's been the total, and they're supportive of us looking at it and keeping it in a open space realm. They're very supportive of that, but I haven't had any other discussion. Not to say that they could not be approached.
Okay. Yeah. So it sounds to me like this property, it would make sense to try to keep it open space in some form or other.
Right, Brian?
Could you put up on the screen the map of that particular piece of property? And then I want to make a comment.
All right, hold on. You have it, Bruce, I have it.
If you have it, Larry, go ahead.
Yep, let me just. Okay, let me make it a little bigger. All right, can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, this is Barry Rafferty. Let me give you a little history about the Conservation Commission's input on this particular piece of property many years ago. When you look at that property in question, just to the left of it, or as Tom said, to the west, there are two adjoining properties to it before you come over to the next housing development. And those two particular pieces of property 20 years ago or more were prime sites for industrial park. So this was going to be our new industrial area on Flanders Road, because at that time, the dump was a lot more active. It was actually an active dump. There were a lot of trucks that were going up and down Flanders Road. There was pressure on that particular piece of property, both of them, the ones that don't have anything on them, to be zoned as commercial, industrial. And there is an area north of 95 that the dump was part of, that right in the center part of town was considered as the industrial part of town. And from the conservation point, when we worked with the town at that time, we said, okay, you can have this center portion, you can have this piece of property. Let us play on the green brake system on the east side of town, as well as doing something on the northwest part of town. And so we stayed out of there. And so it's interesting, what goes around comes around, that all of a sudden now this particular piece of property, and now the town had this piece of property, the one we're talking about, just sitting there. And I've walked the whole property from the other side, going all the way across and back with the town many years ago with, I think, Deb Jones led it, when they were looking at the development of that interior properties. On not the most adjacent one, but the next one over, there's a lot of wet areas in there, and there was going to be a lot of work to work around wetlands to do something. So nothing has happened. They've just been sitting quiet and just waiting. And one of them that was logged is owned by Holstein. He owns Knowing Shipyard. And he has come forth to the town. This is the adjoining property now to the one in question, just to the west of it. He has been trying all sorts of things over the years to break out of the industrial park complex and partially make it partially industrial and partially homes. So that the thought was that he'd develop a multifamily houses in there, townhouses, and the thought is that that would support the industry, whatever would be on the property. He was looking for anything to develop it, and it never went any further than just those discussions. The town, meanwhile, is sitting on this piece of property, and I thought, okay, if this thing ever gets fully developed, the town will throw their hat in the ring and say, okay, we can use this piece of property, give them access to Flanders Road, whatever. And so as from the framework of the Conservation Commission, that was sort of a no-go area. And then Gosa's come along and was able to pick up the sheep farm north, I guess we'll call it. And so that put a new wrinkle in this whole concept of what is industrial and what's not. And I guess I would ask a question to Bruce, is the town still interested in this property, is developing it at some point as industrial lands? Because if they are, and we acquire this one little piece as the town currently owns as open space, then not only do you have the 95 to the north of it, but also just to the west, it may be developed into an industrial area. So I put that on the table because that's a question that I have, is what are the thoughts as far as zoning is concerned and what can be done and can't be done? Because I know that if it's industrially zoned, they're very reluctant, at least years ago, the town was very reluctant to have any conversations about, especially not going to open space, but even converting it over to, let's say, a conservation subdivision, something like that. So more interested to see what if Bruce knows anything about what the town's feelings are at the moment.
Sure. So that property that you just discussed, and the property here, 0 Flanders Road, both of those are located in an IM zoning district right now, and they have been for years, I believe. But so IM stands for industrial and mixed use. So all those uses are still allowed. So some of the general categories that are allowed in IMs are light industrial, food and beverage production, warehouse and distribution, hotel, motel, restaurant, retail, professional medical offices, automobile services, things like that. So I mean, there are a lot of uses here, and that are permitted. It is industrial land, so I mean, we tend to target development in industrial zones because it's not usually adjacent to residential areas. So I can't really say if they are targeting other parcels or anything like that, but I mean, the underlying zoning does kind of suggest that, that the vision of the town for that area has always been industrial.
Yeah, well, this area here was all new, and this is all residential. That was a new development. And it's all residential down here, so it's kind of creeping up this way. So it's not, and plus the infrastructure is you have water but no sewer. And I do remember the cost of putting sewers in that was prohibitive. I mean, we didn't do it as the town.
I think that the sewer line, I think, goes up to 95, and that the big cost that the town kept hoping for is to be able to put water and sewer north of 95, where north of the dump, if you will, to further develop that land out there. But the sewer lines have been moved up pretty close to 95 when that new Bel Air development was installed. not too many years ago.
We didn't see that on the map. When Tom and I looked at it on the utilities map, we didn't see it there. So
Yeah,
we gotta-
there aren't, there isn't municipal water or sanitary sewer services to that lot right there. I think there is. So this is Mystic Woods. You can't see where my cursor is. It's Larry's, but Mystic Woods is that large subdivision to the east side of Flanders Road down there. No, south, right there. I believe there's services there, and Bel Air is just south of that too. But I know that property across the street from that new subdivision is, it used to be Timbuktu, that landscaping property right there, that's not serviced either. So I think maybe there was a proposal to have those services up there, but I don't know if it ever happened because I know there's no service to that particular parcel. Yeah, and I know that Timbuktu property, they have a large septic system. They're actually getting approved right now for a boat repair building. So I know they don't have municipal sewer or water, so.
Just one other point is to the right of that property, to the east of that property, there's a big open space in there, and that's Wolfbrook.
Mhm.
And
It's here.
conservation list of properties to protect, that's been one that GOSA has been very involved with for years, trying to protect that property. It does have, I think, Bruce, a subdivision that's already been approved. I don't know if it's still viable. And recently, within the past year or two, that particular property came back up to us as possibly acquiring it for open space. So if that were to happen, and then that little piece of town property not too far away, that would be a nice horizontal green break going east or west that Tom was talking about.
Yeah, are you talking about the property that Larry's cursor is on right now?
Yep.
Yeah, that's still under consideration of possible open space acquisition. So there was a development that was approved there many years ago. I think it's expired. It was actually I think it was gonna be an active adult community or a bunch of residential uses. I can't remember, but that expired, and yeah, I mean the town is pursuing that for open space still.
Yeah, there were a lot of vernal pools on the property, a lot of very important ecological areas that were on the property. We also went in there with the inland wetlands folks when they were doing the mapping of the inland wetlands, and were surprised at how many unique spots were in there. So it's always been high on their list for those.
Yeah, there's a lot of archaeological and historical value to that property too. There's a Atlantic white cedar swamp. And just for the property we're talking about tonight, Zero Flanders, there's some historical value to that too. And there's been some preliminary architectural studies there. And you know, this whole area, they find artifacts really anytime they do surveying. So that's, you know, something else we would consider, or would also be somewhat of a constraint for development moving forward.
All right, other comments or input? All right, so I think, I guess we need a sense from the commission in terms of the two properties. So I guess from what I've heard, and I didn't hear anyone proposing on the Aquanic Road, but though I'm getting the sense that do what you want with Aquanic Road, but for a variety of reasons, the Zero Flanders Road should be open space, part of the Greenbelt process. Does that resonate? Does that look like the consensus from the commission? Ray? Oop. Ray first, then Michelle, then Karen. We'll go that way across my screen here.
Could you drop down to the next map, please?
Yeah, this is the Aquanic Road. Yep.
Right.
It's pretty barren in there. It's a small, less than an acre, right there on the highway.
My history with that property from years going by that place, that used to be a gas station in there.
So we don't know what's in the ground.
Ooh,
Yes, we do.
It's not
Yeah.
good.
The gas tanks ruptured, or they had leaks. So it was discovered that tanks had leaked for a period of time. So they immediately closed it down and put it forward to say, you've got to remove your tanks, and then we've got to go investigate, how bad are things underneath it. And when they discovered how much had gotten into the ground, across the street, Paquonic Road, they've got wells that they're afraid of that stuff moving down into the Paquonic River. So it's traveling underground. But they've got monitoring wells on the site. The gas station went belly up. They didn't have the funding or wanted to spend the funding on correcting the situation. They walked away from it, handed the keys over to the town. Thank you very much. And the town then sought some Superfund site money or some extra money to clean that whole thing up. And I give the town a whole lot of credit and thank you for knocking the building, knocking everything down, and then getting the tanks out of there and doing what needs to be done. Also, so ecologically, there's no history that's worth, from our perspective, to save. Also, it's a very low piece of property. It doesn't show very well here, but right behind it is a tidal swamp that you get a really good high tide, and it comes back by that property. And so it's one where if you were to build there, you'd have to fall under the coastal guidelines of starting 12 feet up or whatever above sea level, I would think, to start. It's a tough piece of property. I suppose you could have a small business back on it, but it's not anything I would suggest for us to rally around to save.
All right, even more reasons to say if somebody wants to do something with it, though, that might actually be better. Additional cleanup or the ability to, to get rid of whatever contaminants are below the surface or remain there. Other comments? I'm sorry, we were going across. So Michelle had the next one, and then Tom, you're third in line from the hand raising. Michelle?
Actually, I thought Karen was before me, but that's okay. So this is Michelle Fitzpatrick, and I was just going to say, Larry, yeah, I agree with what you said, and what Bray just confirmed, that we don't have really an opinion on what they should do with this site. But when we give our opinion on the other one, to list all the different reasons, like if you're going to give a letter or memo or whatever, say here's all the reasons why this should be preserved. That's all.
All right. Karen?
well, I agree with what Michelle said, and I have just an additional question. How difficult would it be to take that site on Flanders and change it from an IM to rezone it? I mean, does that need to be done if we make that recommendation? Do we also recommend that they look at the zoning on that?
I can answer that. I mean, we could. I don't think that's part of the discussion right now. I mean, if, let's say, the town wanted to have that as open space, I mean, the discussion could be had to zone that as one of our recreation areas. I think it's one of our green areas. I forget what exactly the zone is called, but that could have a discussion, or some kind of conservation easement on that property, depending on what the town decides to do with it. But there's kind of a lot of things to consider there, because it is surrounded by industrial, and you don't want to have just one open space zone surrounded by industrial. I mean, the other side of the road is residential too, so maybe it could work out as kind of a buffer in between those two zones. But
Okay.
yeah, it's something we could consider moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
Tom, your hand was up.
Yeah, just for for the record here, more than anything else, that this piece, parcel on Paquonic Road, is zone is what they call MBC, or mixed use village center, which basically says you can have commercial, industrial, that type of stuff, as was outlined earlier, but as a village center area. So I have to kind of look at it, says, well, as a village center area, are there green areas within the village center area, which this is really the Pequannock Village area. And you already have the Pequannock boardwalk in there. You've got the human services with it's a 2-acre parcel there, which is available for village center areas. So I think there's already enough green space per se for a village center area. And so by us saying, hey, town, this is less than 3 acres, we really don't look at it as a primary open space area. I'd say our recommendation would be to let the planning people continue whatever use that they can get out of it from the town perspective, as far as to have it becoming a revenue generator, as opposed to just being vacant, which would be the recommendation on this particular property. Thank you.
Other comments?
I have a comment.
Kristen?
If it's just sitting there kind of vacant and nobody really wants it because it's expensive to develop, because it's got, water issues, it's got contamination issues, it might be a space that the town could use to just put in a bunch of pollinator stuff, some nice pollinator gardens, trees, it doesn't, not that it would be a designated green space, but it just looks like it's going to be a really problematic property. So if energy was put into it, it could be like a really nice property if the town kept it.
All right. Oh, back to Bray.
This is Bray again. One quick thing is, if it had any economical, not economical, but viable concerns on the reservoir system, the Pequannock River that we see to the right of it leads right up to the dam. I mean, that's the overflow from the reservoir, but it goes right into Long Island Sound. And it's, they're going to have to be careful on what kinds of things go there, because it is so close to a water source. There is actually a stream that runs right along the Pequannock Road that goes up to that property. So that's sort of another thing that makes it more difficult for the town to try to do something with it. But I agree that hand it back to the town and say, good luck.
All right, I think we've heard from everyone that wants to. So I guess I'm back to the sense that I said before the discussion is, we don't really have an opinion on the Pequannock Road one. We do have an opinion on the Flanders Road one. So our action then would be to respond to the letter or the request given to us, which means we would have to draft such a letter. So I guess I'm looking for volunteers, maybe, one for each, one for the Pequannock Road and one for the Flanders Road. I certainly would provide support in terms of the economic model input on those as much as I can. But there was a variety of things brought up, whether historical, especially on the Flanders Road, existing use by the residents that have done it on their own, et cetera, et cetera. So do I have any volunteers?
Well, I can give you a few comments on, this is Bray, I'll give you a few comments on the Pequannock Road property if you want.
All right, so Bray's got the Pequannock Road. How about on Flanders? Nobody wants to look at me.
What's your time? This is Olson. What's your timeline? I can probably put something together for you.
Bruce, there wasn't a specific timeline in the request other than address it at this meeting. I would think that, if we got something back within 30 days, that would be fine. Does that seem okay to you, Bruce?
That seems okay. I mean, because, it was sent on January 8th. I'm sure the other commissions that are going to be reviewing this will have meetings later this month. I would say 2 weeks would be better than by the end of the month, but I mean, that can work. I would just suggest that you try to, answer the question that was kind of directed. I mean, you can obviously expand more on that, but try to just kind of target a specific question that, was asked, because it is just kind of the formal process you can see on the page before that. And it's just kind of what they're going to be using for the reevaluation and how they're going to do the assessment.
Yeah, well, we could certainly answer that, right? And we talked about some aspects of it, but there's also additional input that, is useful. For example, if there is in fact some historical artifacts or items of the land, the fact that it does have a use and is being used by the local residents for recreation. I mean, so it supports these answers. So I don't see a problem in answering that with all the things that were brought up. I guess I'll be there. So I hear you. I think if you're saying 2 weeks, I think it would be, what I can do is to put out a quick note to John Burt that says, we received your memo. We had the discussion at this meeting. Here was our preliminary view on it, and we are working to put together a formal response, and we'll have it, within 30 days. So I think that would at least provide some feedback. So I'd be certainly, willing to do that and buy that extra couple of weeks. So note to Bert. All right, so Tom, oops. All right, so since we've kind of got the direction here, I think the rest would be staff work, if you will. So I'm more than happy to work, one-on-one with Bray and Tom to help put that together. And as I said, I'll put out a note to John Burt that we are in fact doing that. All right. So is that I'll look for kind of a agreement, consensus on that approach. All right. Okay. So that was that one. Then we're into open space per se. So let me get another sheet of paper here. I make too many notes during these meetings. All right, so if I go through it, is that one of the items is that we had been asked by the town manager to present to him and the town council on February 23rd. So I put together a first draft town council plan. Give me a second to bring that up. So that should be this one. So let me make this. There we go. So I put together a quick 12-slide presentation. I bounced it off of Tom, who provided some comments, and then I updated it again. So we didn't distribute this, did we, Bruce?
No.
No.
Okay. And the thing is, there's no new data in it. It's just saying, what do we want to present to the town? So let me go through here and say that the agenda was a quick update on the status, the priorities of the plan. That looks redundant now that I look at it. The outreach program that says, how do we then advertise and go on and plan? We'll talk about the outreach program a little later tonight. The parcel analysis that was done, I think Liz mentioned that was there, and we got more on that, and we've had Parks and Rec do an update, and we'll share that today as well. And then focus on the key recommendations and actions. So the status is pretty well forward. This is actually the same from the last time we presented. And this got reviewed slightly. So right here is we had the public hearing published. Oh, the new time. So this can be changed because we are now live on the website. So I'll share that with you shortly so that we can fill in. And this is the presentation to the town manager and the town council. And we wound up with a tally of 49 recommendations when I did my count. So I guess somebody can double check me on that. So the status I thought was pretty straightforward. The 7 priorities are the ones that was in the prior presentation. And rather than spending, this is kind of like condensing it a little bit. Oh, Michelle, if there's an updated one that kind of shows going through the Flanders Road, that would be helpful for the feedback.
Yeah, I don't have, and there's no way for me to do any more updates on that right now.
In the next 30 days?
No.
No?
Except, before, what Tom did way before was to take just that picture and do a draw on it. You could just draw another line on there, but there's no way I'm going to get into the GIS system to do anything with it.
Larry, this is Tom Olson. I tried to do some stuff on that remotely here. I'm having a little bit of difficulty. Working off an iPad and PowerPoint is not the best way to be dealing stuff. So if you want me to, if you feel it's that important to update that, I think what we've got right now is adequate. It's generic enough, but I can't, it's just not worth my time to try to dig into and getting that fixed before the 23rd.
I mean, if all we're talking about is adding, drawing a line in there, we could just do that right inside the PowerPoint itself.
Yep. No, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it for the 23rd. This is good enough because it's generic. I meant for the response on the Flanders Road one, which is later.
Right, but either way,
I heard you.
Yeah. So, but you really could just draw another line. Just draw a line across there using draw. Using the draw program. So
we'll address that, not for this presentation, but if there's something we can do with drawing for the response to the town on their request. So then there was the 7 priorities. Ben spent time on the outreach, which we didn't in the last one. And these were feedbacks from all the folks that talked to us.
Health, Larry, health.
Yep.
You have Heath instead of health.
Where?
Video series on conservation.
Oh, Heath. Okay.
And Ellen there.
Okay.
The Heaths are nice too.
Well, we have Heath benefits, I'm sure. I mean, it's the. All right, I didn't do spell check yet, so I gotta remember to do spell check as I go.
Yeah, but spell check wouldn't have caught that.
Wouldn't have caught that. Yeah, you're right. As soon as I said it, I went, "Oh, that wouldn't help." Talking about the collaboration and working with wetland. Actually, we may have a different one here with the project, the King Kalansky property. I'm kind of working on a video on my own there with Eugenia, so that might be the second one rather than wetlands. But I'll work on that over the next week or so. Oops. The parcel analysis, this is a statement that was updated. I did look at, we're going to look at the deed analysis. There was 183 parcels. 34 parcels were silent on deed restrictions. Is point 1, and point 2 was the identification for stewardship of non-parks and recs open spaces. And this needs to get updated because we did get some feedback, and so this needs to get parsed a little bit. But again, the thought wasn't to go into excruciating details, but kind of bounce along the top and kind of view what areas they may or may not be interested in. Because we could talk for, I mean, it's 100 pages, right? And it didn't seem like we were there to educate them on everything in the plan, but to kind of bounce along the top of it. So there was a bit on parcel analysis, and may or may not, I'm thinking of may or may not want to show an actual spreadsheet, or since we're on Zoom, we can link to an actual live document and do the links to the deeds. That might be a neat thing to do. So that's something to think of in terms of presentations. And I'll show you that in a minute. But I thought the prime thing was to look at the actions. So I went through the actions and did some sorting on it. So when you look at who's responsible for what, 25 were ours specifically, 18 was the town staff, might be with or without us, but there was town staff involvement. 6 were other commissions. So then the thing was, well, out of those, which ones would require town council actions? And that reduced down to, I think it was 2, 4, 5, it was like 5. So I thought the focus should be on, since it's representing to the town council, is to talk about those that we believed would need town council actions. So those are listed here. It's, I guess, any comments at this point. So this is the Green Belt to Connecticut Greenway. This is integration with the New London and the Ledyards going, to the left and I guess to the north and to the west. The second one was to maintain forest canopy. And this is to look at zoning regs and other things. And these are actions, guys. These aren't decisions we're asking for at this meeting, but just saying this is the work we're going to be doing and we'll be coming back to them. And this one is, looking for additional areas within Groton where, either provide better protection or provide more areas. It's a very generic action, but that's what is in our plan. And then the third one is, it says open space management plan. We're calling it our stewardship workbook is kind of what this comes into. And we're going to talk about that tonight. So those were, again, I wanted to bounce through kind of a high level view. That's what it currently looks like. So let me open it up for any comments, recommendations, or changes to do that. And the entire commission is invited and should be active on the call when we present it. Is that correct, Bruce? I'm sure we can do
that's
that.
correct.
Yep.
Well, yeah, as many as you want to be. Yeah.
Yeah. Michelle?
Can you go back to the status? Because I want to look at the wording. Keep going.
Maybe. Whoop. There we go.
Okay. So I think, basically, we as a commission have approved this and it's now being published and posted, right? So
It's published and posted, yes, right here.
Right. So I think you need a whole separate line item that published and posted. That's not about the phase 2 public hearing. That's like the final action we made. So we had a final action that was we approved it and posted it.
The way I
So
got
that
it
needs
would
to be its own. It needs to be a bullet farther left. That's not under phase 3 public hearing. That's its own topic.
so that would be a phase 4 or something.
Well, it's not even a phase. It's just phase 3 is done. Boom, we approved it and it's posted. We are done. It's no longer right.
Increase the font on it. And
Yeah, I was 20. Yep, I just saw that. All right, so if I do that to 20, okay, so you're saying make that a
Yes.
how do I say bullet? Okay.
Yes.
But then you need to capitalize all the stuff because it's all capitalized everywhere else.
Yeah, because
All
it's a higher level now.
All right, I see what you mean. Okay. Okay, other comments?
What's the date on this presentation again, Larry?
The 23rd. I just put February, but it's February 23rd.
February 23rd, right?
Yep.
Larry?
Yep.
You on the other phases, I don't know, you have dates, published and posted, since it's past tense, maybe it's okay, or do you want to put a date that it was uploaded, like December or whatever?
I originally had a date there, but this is a fait accompli. I just said,
Yeah,
it's
that's,
like in history.
that's
It's
fine.
published and it's posted.
Yeah, it's in the past tense, so
Yeah.
I guess it's fine.
So, I
We
don't
get
know.
sent a link to that meeting, or do we have to go onto the town's website to log on to that, or how's that going to go? Will we be panelists on that?
You would get a panel invite.
Okay.
So Bruce, my request to you is that each of the commission members would get a panel invite for that, certainly that portion of the meeting. Yes, Michelle?
So I would recommend, you don't have to put this in the presentation, but when you present it, just tell them what date we approved it. So that was at the December meeting, right?
It was approved at December meeting, yes.
Yeah, and I guess that's the adopted on 12/7. So that really goes, so I guess even that, and maybe, now I'm looking at this. So
Yeah.
So the approval, I mean, the approval and the publishing, that's a whole nother, like maybe final actions. And then updated and adopted on 12/7 and then publish and post it. So I think you just had things under the public hearing that didn't belong there.
Oh,
Yes, and you can get rid of the bullet above that, the updated and adopted, get rid of that sub bullet.
Oops. Oh, man, what the heck that? Oh, that one's down. Why doesn't that shift left?
You're not telling it the right thing, maybe?
Yeah, I know.
where is
Shift
it?
tab. There it goes. Okay. All right, I get the idea. So it's like,
Yeah.
I don't want to spend your time doing.
No, but yeah, that needed to be its own thing, that's all. So that's good.
Okay,
Thank you.
but so we could, yeah, and I'll send it out and everybody can kind of put any other edits and do their, let's call it grammatical reviews and other things subsequent. Other comments? All right, so basically, we will, I mean, we collectively will be presenting, you know, what we've done in the past. And matter of fact, another future one is we presented a status to the Thames Basin, River Basin crew last month, I think the 19th. We'll chat about that in a second. And I kind of tag team with Tom, who you know, led the text team. So, and then anyone else can participate and jump in and add comments. So that'd be my suggestion on how to do the presentation. Is that okay with everyone?
Mhm.
Unless Tom can't communicate from the sunny south, then we'll adjust.
Yeah, I'm still going to be available. Hopefully, I'll let you know if I can't, but I'm standing by to present the priorities as done before.
All right, very good. All right. Moving right along, 6 o'clock. All right, we're making not bad time. The next item is the parcel update. So there's a couple of things here. Let me do this. Now this is going to be a little strange because I'm going to do two things at once. All right, so let me get rid of this. Got too many things open on my desk. All right, now this isn't the total list. This is the subset. So let me tell you what it is here. So one of the things, oh, this probably you won't see this. If I hit that, yeah, it comes up in a different window, so you don't see that. So what happens is when you click that, if you guys haven't played with it.
So you share your screen instead of sharing the document, maybe.
Yeah, but I got a big screen and I'm not sure you'll see much. It'll get too
Okay.
small for you. So I'm going to bounce back and forth. So what happens is, and Tom did most of this, and then Bruce provided support in filling in a lot of missing ones. So there's a link to the actual deed, which is great. We got kudos and thanks from Mark Berry in terms of this information. So that was, let me just go back to here. And all right, so all those properties I listed, I think what I say, 138 properties that's in there. And those are the town ones. In addition to the town ones, there's the city, the states, et cetera. And the information is there. We sent the information to Mark Berry on which ones they are. If you notice these right here, these three columns, we've asked him to say, oh, I'm sorry. I think Tom, you did this one, right? The part type from the map.
Yes, those are all, I gave on the stuff we sent to Mark. I had taken a look from the sources that are readily available to us as the commission, either from the town map, there's a 2016 map, or from any other source information that I had, like his map, the Parks and Rec master plan, their bike and trail plan, from those type of documents. And this is the status that I had assigned to them. And then also made some recommendations whether or not that they missed something in some of their documents also.
So, okay, so the feedback we asked them was the Parks and Rec stewardship responsibility. So they did list a lot of yeses. So I thought for the purpose of discussion, yeah, I wouldn't show all the yeses. And then whether it was active or passive, so obviously they weren't doing anything. This is not surprising that it's passive. So if we look through the town-owned spaces here, I think there's 21 plus, and he didn't say anything here on the blank, so I put blanks in there. And it's above 3 acres. You're talking about the 114 and 155, another 30. So there's about 50 or so listed here. And I think when we get into the stewardship workbook and what we want to do is what do we do about these? And it's important because I reread the stewardship plan and there's two major sections to it. One is what you do or what restrictions are there, and the other one, who's responsible. So I think we really need to talk about that when we get to that section, but this provides the input to have that debate or discussion. So my suggestion would be, we have this source material, we go to the ordinance first and agree upon what our end state is, then bounce back to this sheet and talk about what do we do about these individual parcels. And we may not get to that today. Matter of fact, I know we won't get that today, given all the other things we're going to be doing. But I'm also thinking of maybe we ought to do this as a special subcommittee to kind of go through these properties based upon the agreements we've made as a commission on the responsibilities of the Conservation Commission in regards to stewardship. So let me pause there and see, and again say, is that an appropriate approach and a sequence, or do you guys want to do something different?
It's a good approach.
Michelle's got a thumbs up.
I'm happy with that.
Tom?
So
This is Tom Olson. From my viewpoint, one of the things that as I've been kind of reflecting back on all this, is that obviously if I've got a deed currently in place that requires it to be open space, I'm golden relative to a determination. What we don't have right now is that we have a lot of things that are either the deed silent or we have no deed that we can reference to in regard to, and now if Parks and Recs is saying they're maintaining it, great, but there's other parcels here where we don't, that are kind of void out there. The town, I'll give you a good example, is this Joel property. Parks and Recs is not saying that they are doing anything with it. The deed is silent because it was processed back in the 1950s and before open space was a concept. And so how does the town want to go and assign open space protection to that? And coming up, maybe we need to really focus on determining what parcels, we put them on a list here as the Conservation Commission, just because historically the town's kind of thought of that way. But should we go off and fix that problem first before we talk about putting ordinances in place and stewardship plans and yada, yada, yada? I think we need to get the deed situation and the documentation of that these are truly the parcels that are open space. And also and make a determination also on do I want to worry about the stuff that's less than 3 acres also? I know we kind of, from a determination and researching perspective, we cut it at 3 acres, but do I need to also go back and take a look at those and do the additional due diligence on those, recognizing that we're not going to put a stewardship plan in place in them, but to get the determination that this is going to be treated as open space by the town. And as such, we're going to go back and monitor it and update the deeds or putting some type of protective wording in place on those deeds.
All right, I agree, but I think those are two separate questions. The first one, or the second, what you just raised is really this column that says, if it's silent and it's not protected, then there's an action that says, what do we do about it, right? Do we want to protect it? And B, what's the mechanism? And I know you've suggested kind of a general single document and then have everything referenced to it. So I think that's one action. I was then focused on the second action that says, assuming you wouldn't worry about stewardship if it wasn't protected. So then you've got to decide, okay, what's the stewardship plan for those parcels that that we identified as A, warranting protection, and B, warranting stewardship. So I think, so let me insert into that process the parcel protection question, then the decision on whether we want it to be have a formal stewardship, and then who do we recommend do the stewardship. So it's I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying it's an extra step.
That's fine. I agree.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Yeah, Bray.
Where it says no deed, does that mean that the deed is not accessible from the property website of the town, the GIS website, but there's actually a deed in the records?
This is Tom Olson, where it says no deed is I cannot electronically go in from the town GIS website and get a link.
Right.
On parcels that were greater than 3 acres, we were able, Bruce was working with me, we were able to go into the town clerk website, which is maintained at the state level, and find the deeds there. And that's why I say these are all smaller parcels that we just did not execute the time to go digging. And so we should be able to find them, but it's going to require additional work.
No, yeah, this is Michelle, though. The ones that say no deed are bigger than 3. They still say no deed in the spreadsheet.
I'm talking about the ones up in the top portion, which is the open space. We did not spend time going down into other areas such as the open space with facilities. Obviously, the town's working with those, and or else or the open space, the town-owned managed open space
Oh,
areas,
okay.
the golf courses. I just haven't done it at that
That's
level. Don't,
right.
these other two low, the two low other spaces, we haven't got to either.
Okay,
Yeah. So the focus was here on the open space ones, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
1,000 acres here versus,
Right.
right, the golf courses and those kind of things. But I think that's a good point, that maybe this no deed should be, not that one doesn't exist, is that we don't have it, it's not online.
well, and that, yeah, that, his comment column has that.
Yes, but if you don't know what that means, I still, okay, let me think about it. So Tom, maybe we gotta think about how we want to word that, because I could see no deed could be taken the wrong way.
What is it, please? Silent deed? What does that mean?
A silent deed means that the deed, I can pull the deed up, but it doesn't say that this is open space. It is to be protected. There's no proper, it's just, it belongs to the town, typically by a foreclosure.
Right. Okay. So that's what. So
Yeah.
that's.
I think maybe I thought about it. I think a legend might be helpful. That might explain some of the terms in here. So let me put that as a question mark, and Tom, I can work with you on maybe coming
Sure.
up with a legend on it. Sometimes you work on it so long as you know what it is, but other people go, "What the hell is he talking about?" All right, all right, good. I think we have a plan. Boy, there's a lot of noisy things going on out there. I can you hear that, or is?
It's like a macro burst of wind or something.
Nah, there's some machinery. I don't know what's going on out there, but I want to make sure I'm not disturbing you guys.
Hearing some loud wind.
Yeah, no, that's not wind. Okay, so, and I think the other thing is I do need to get some feedback, and I'll do that one. I'll need to get feedback back to Mark Berry. He gave us his input. We got his input. We reviewed it, or at least we've got an action plan on how to do what to do with it. And I want to relay that back to him. All right, just to close the loop there. All right, the next item, I'd almost like to switch, because next item was outreach, but then we go to ordinance. And I think while we're thinking ordinance, I'd like to go to that. If you guys don't have a problem with me changing the order a little bit.
Fine.
Michelle?
You're muted, Michelle.
You're still muted.
I know, I lost the page. Okay, so in the handout is the abridged version of the open space plan, and I thought that was part of this discussion, but do we skip that under the open space, or is it somewhere else? Where is that on the agenda?
Hold on, let me go to, let me find, my mouse all of a sudden stopped working. Let me go to I'm in the PDF sheet. So the abridged version, we'll get back to that discussion.
Yeah, but where is it in the agenda? Is it under open space plan or is it somewhere else? Because I can't tell where it's supposed to be.
Well, there's a parcel update, which we just did. Then
Right.
there was open space plan outreach, which was
Right.
next. But then there's 4.3, which is open space ordinance.
Oh, so is the abridged plan part of the outreach? Is that what that is?
Yes.
Okay, never mind then. Yes, I get it. I'm good.
Oh, okay. All right. Let me go back to.
There it is.
Let me go back to my screen here. There it is. All right. So this is the ordinance that was distributed. And when I said that, to me, there's like two major sections. You got the yellow are what are the rules, regulations, permits? I mean, a lot of the mechanics around managing the space. What I thought is that we would spend some time, because it's, I think the more important point is who does what, right? That's where I got a little confused, and I want to make sure we were all in agreement on it. So it's really the first 4 sections I wanted to spend some time on. We get that sorted out, that'll allow us to go back and work the matrix that we just saw before, and allow us to then understand, you know, the rest of the sections, which we could probably do at our next meeting, is kind of my thought process. So if we look here, and I actually started changing this because it did say, and this is what confused me, and I think, Tom, maybe you can help. This was originally up, shall be maintained. If you read this, town's open space land shall be maintained and generally achieve the objectives for land designated as path for recreation as described, da, 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 da. That's fine, right? But then is, who does the oversight? So it originally said not under the oversight of Parks and Recs, and that confused the hell out of me. Because if it's not under the and then later on we say it needs to be under the oversight because the steward is someone that would be under the supervision of Parks and Rec. So I got kind of wrapped around who's doing what to whom. So that's why I kind of then changed this. It says, whatever is in here would be under the oversight of Parks and Rec, the Board of Education, Public Works, or the Conservation Commission. Somebody would have oversight.
This is a key. This is Tom Olson. I know you kind of directed this at me. One of the prime things that is outlined in the actual words of the plan was that you have different parts of the town owning different lands that are considered open space. From an oversight perspective, technically, the Conservation Commission is, because we're just an advisory commission rather than a regulatory commission approved by the town council, we really don't have any direct oversight of any land or people or staff, or have the power to put regulations in place. Whereas the Parks and Rec Commission, they are, if you don't read their ABC thing on their charter per se, they are empowered to put regulations in place for how an individual park is operated. Likewise, the Board of Education, what can happen at a school playground, okay? Public Works, the same thing as what can happen at parcels that are considered open space for them relative to pump stations and that type of stuff. So we, as the Conservation Commission, don't have any direct oversight of any of these vacant lands that are not assigned to an individual commission. And as such, that's why we need what the recommendation for putting an open space ordinance in place was to give direction within to the town in regard to who's doing what, to be providing stewardship of those, and also for use regulations of those spaces. And that's why the need for the ordinance is there. What is the generic reason for putting this ordinance in place is to give an assignment for who's doing what. Okay. And so to say the words of you're putting in here under the oversight of us is incorrect. So
okay, I took that out. So I think I now heard what you said. So normally this is the way it works, but then there's another thing is for those open space lands, not if I was to think some word about not under the oversight, of the 3 areas, would be supported or called or managed under the terms of this ordinance. Is that kind of what you're doing? You got the ones that are and the ones that aren't?
That's correct.
Okay. Would be, and without working about wordsmithing, would be basically covered under this ordinance. I don't like that, but at least I now understand it.
Yeah, and this is where I've been kind of struggling right now as far as to come up with words to put in here, is because as an ordinance, it would be posted in the municipal code section of the town. But what does it say that, you know, that when as a citizen, I come onto this property, how do I know who's maintaining things and stuff? That's where I've been struggling right now as far as the value of this ordinance in regard to controlling of it. And that's come to some degree. You know, I'm kind of waffling that maybe we should be making a bigger run as far as our open space areas as now that we have a better understanding with the inventory. If we're just down to a few leftover parcels, would we be better off rather than going down the path of this ordinance to, excuse me, get them under parks and come up with a different categorization, but have them under from a Parks and Rec stewardship perspective, if they're willing to take these on, but whether it's as a passive rather than fully active type of land management, and essentially but their ordinance is because it's under Parks and Rec's rulings, they could issue as a commission to be basically having their rules in place relative to uses by dogs and cats and whatever else there is. Do it that way. If we're down to such a small part, we may be able to get Parks and Rec to buy into these few leftover parcels in a special kind of category, but it would be under their overseeing stewardship. And then we may not really need the ordinance in and of itself. Thank you.
All right, Michelle?
This is Michelle Fitzpatrick. So Todd, what you're saying is if that's the case, we wouldn't need an ordinance at all. Is that what you're suggesting?
That's what I'm suggesting. If we're getting down to just a few small parcels, and that's where it's critical. Now that I see the list that we just looked at, we're down to not that much left over, you know, and recognizing that if Parks and Rec is willing to take on some additional responsibilities, and that we work with them and coming up with saying, hey, the town has a need here for some type of level of stewardship of these parcels. We were as the results of all of this, we were looking to Parks and Recs as having their steward identified in the ordinance here. If they're willing to do that and take that responsibility on without an ordinance, I think it might be an easier sell.
All right, there's another flavor, because as I recall, Mark Berry said he wanted an ordinance in order to fulfill a requirement for some level of certification for Parks and Rec. So there's another element of that I got to go sort out, which would be the second half, probably mostly the second half, you know, 2-5 through 210, right? Which outlines who can do what, where, and when on the property, regardless of the stewardship.
Yeah, and I'm not aware of. I have not had that discussion with Mark, and so I'm not sure where he's going. But you know, I'm just saying it's a balance here that I think we have to have some kind of additional, both with Mark and also with the other commission members. Because I did this just for full disclosure here. This past earlier back in January, I did call in or Zoom into the Parks and Rec Commission meeting, and I outlined with them where we were, that we had issued our open space conservation plan, and that we had asked Mark to do the parcel review. They were very supportive of it, and I think they're very willing to work with us on any type of, if they need to have language for whether it be an ordinance or with the future expansion of what their roles and responsibilities are. I think they're very willing to listen to us, and that appeared very supportive and willing to listen to us at least in regard to what's the best way forward. Thank you.
All right. Other comments, inputs, Ray?
Just a quick question to both you and Tom. on the ordinance that you're coming up with. It sounds like we need some input, some sort of description from Mark Berry about what he needs. So that can be, then we can see whether or not it dovetails into what you have up on the screen currently.
Yep, I wrote that down. So that was going to be one of my suggestions, is to see, is there a requirement? Because I kind of like Tom's view, because number one, it means less work from us. Number two, it means that it's an easier path to get to where we want to be, right? Which is somebody's looking out for the properties. Other comments?
I had a comment, Kristen. The only thing about codifying something into an ordinance is then you have it there, because right now we're saying, oh, well, you know, there's an understanding, Parks and Recs wants to do this and that. So if it's just kind of an understanding and then personnel and so on change, that might slip away. So that's just, there might be just some value in codifying it as an ordinance.
Okay, other comments? All right, so.
Oh, just something
Yep.
quick, I guess. I just have a question. I mean, the ordinance would cover all the open space, right? But we're saying that the only properties that would have a management plan and work would be the ones that are 3 acres and over. I mean, it seems like it would be good to have at least something in place to what the expected, you know, what you can and can't do in general for open space properties, all of them. And then.
So, okay, yep, that's a valid point. So the ordinance would apply to everything regardless of size, but having a stewardship plan would only, you know, we'd only look for that for those identified greater than 3 acres and or specific ones under the 3 acres. All right, so that's all good feedback. I think kind of get back to the early discussion on having the inventory. Like, as I said, they are kind of interrelated. So what I think I heard is put a pause on further discussion on the ordinance per se, understand from Mark Berry what requirement, number 2 things, what requirements he has. And secondly, would he be willing to basically take over or be responsible for all these properties or parcels from the inventory that we've identified that don't have one? And I agree, it's probably passive rather than active recreational ones. And if he does that, then either we don't need an ordinance, or the ordinance gets kind of swizzled to focus on the bottom, the yellow kind of items, and this one just becomes basically the way it was. This comes out, you know, this section right there that I just added in comes out because it's not needed, right? Because everything would be under one of those commissions or boards or departments. So that gives me a to-do to sort out the answers to those questions. Is that agreeable as I go forward? So I get a two thumbs up. Looking for a quorum here, 3, 4. Okay. So, all right, well, that's progress. And hopefully it results in an improved understanding of what happens and less work for us. Although we might have to do more work with each of those departments, depending on where these properties wind up on the inventory. Okay, so those. Okay, so that got tied together. Now I got to switch back to the open space plan outreach portion of the agenda. So let me stop this. And oh my God, my mouse is getting a workout. Where is it? I guess I don't have it up. Hold on, let me bring it up. Ah, that's why I didn't have it up. Give me 1 second. And to go back to that, and then share that. And okay. So this is, all right, so I assume you guys can see that?
Yes.
All right, so this is the new town website. If you go to government, you'll see down here, Conservation Commission. Ta-da! All right, so you click on that. And this is now our page, which is divided into a couple things. This needs a little work. Just threw those three similar pictures in there. It looks a little dumb, but I'll fix that at the next update. This is kind of news items. For example, an IP survey. This is going to get updated to say the results of the survey, right? For example, is a news item. Then there's a generic introduction. And then there's a variety of pages. So this is sharing community links. And what's there, and that should have been capitalized. There was documents and resources. I hold this thought because I've got a proposal to change this a bit. We wanted to talk about how people get involved. And so it kind of evolved to either send me or Bruce, your interest in getting involved. It got too difficult to actually have an online document to capture it, to go someplace. It just got, that almost got too much. Meetings just sends you to, this one's a little easier. It takes you right to the Groton Conservation Commission. What we're saying right now will be the next one added to this. That's later. So let me go back to here. Projects. This is kind of where we add things in. So this is going to get updated in terms of the survey, which we'll get to. And then the value of open space video series. Right now, we still only have one. I do have some news that, Becky is a little bit out of pocket. She's under quarantine in terms of COVID. Her whole family has it. The university's locked down. So she's got problems to deal with. So I've kind of switched to do something with GCA on community involvement in supporting creating trails and working with Parks and Recs. And we got the start of a video there, since we got to wait for Becky to kind of come out of the place she's in. So that's the website. It's now live. We can do a lot of things with it. For example, and this is my suggestion, there was a request to have an abridged version. So Tom took a whack at that. He took the 100 pages, put it down to 25. Still 25 pages.
Yay, Tom.
Yeah, still 25 pages. So I kind of took another whack at it and said the following propositions. You guys can weigh in on that. And let me, let's see, let me get out of here. And let me share something else.
Before you leave, Larry, I mean, you knocked it out of the ballpark. You did most of the work on that website and you did a great job.
Yeah, nice job, Larry.
Nice job.
Thank you, folks. I appreciate that. It ain't done yet, since most of the work is having to keep it busy, not just doing it, right? Is that it? Yeah, that's it. So when you recall the other page, the documents and resource web page, so I kind of thought about that and said, and I took a lot of Tom's words. And I said, what if the page looked more like this? Rather than just having the 4 items with a link to the plan, put the, let me call it the abridged text there, right there on the page. So people could read up on what the open space conservation plan is supposed to be. Let me just go through this real quick. What the objectives, because that was the next line item, what the objectives portion of that plan is supposed to be, what the inventory is supposed to be, and the click obviously to it. And I also was thinking of throwing that in the inventory, but, and what's the economic value user manual supporting data supposed to be. And then, oh, well, I'll get the nips later. So that was, so it was this versus 25 pages. So let me throw it out there because I was trying to think of something to do, because if we had an abridged version, I can't put 25 pages on the web pages. I'd have to have another document to link to, and then explain the 2 different documents and where you go and why you went to one document versus the other document. So comments? Michelle.
This is Michelle Fitzpatrick. I don't see it as one or the other. I like this idea to give people that capsule, here's what this is. But I also like the idea of responding to people that wanted something shorter. 25 is short enough. I mean, we might make it a little bit smaller, but I thought Tom did a great idea in bridging. Just you make sure that you mark the header as a bridged version, and have it as another document. If people want to look at a shorter version, they can look at that one. So we specifically were asked for that, and I think we should still provide it. But I also think I also like what you've done here. So I don't think it's an either or.
Okay. Bray, you had your hand up next.
I support what Michelle was saying. I think that you did a very nice job on the shortening of the version, and I could see a lot of people who just want the real high points, the top of what we're doing, the surface, if you will, and this fits that bill, and certainly appeases all those people who are complaining about the major document being too long. Because they can, once they've gotten here, if they have anything else further they want to go into, then they've got the other document. But this is nice, short and clean.
All right, other comments? So what I heard was, do this, what's up there, but add an open space conservation plan, and then add here probably something that was an abridged version with a little, a 2-sentence introduction, and then have what Tom had put together as a bridge version and throw it in there.
Yeah, have a link to it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, these all have links.
Just make sure the abridged version is well documented that it's the abridged version.
Yeah, no, it would say abridged version with, like I said, a couple of paragraphs. So it'd be.
You said you could put a footnote on the bottom of each page.
Yeah.
Right, or even in the title, in the header, just do it's open space conservation plan for the town of Groton - abridged version, or in parentheses abridged version. I think it needs to be right at the top of the page.
Yeah, but it could also be.
Or as a watermark.
Or something, yeah, just some place that the document itself has it acknowledged on each page that this is the abridged version you're reading.
Title and footer.
Larry, this is Tom Olson. I can get that to you. I understand what they're looking for, and I'll get that and get that into a PDF to you.
All right. So then the page would look something like this. We have of course, this could be first or second.
Yep.
I don't care. Yeah.
Down there's fine.
So we'd have these documents here: the objectives, the inventory, and the economic model, and then there's links to the actual document.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Very nice, Larry.
So So Tom, basically you've got 25 pages. You can just look at it one more time and you could then send me your final on that.
Yes.
Okay. All right, man, we're just booking. That's the bridge version, the website. All right, the other thing on outreach is the trail booklet. I did get I guess an example from Mark Berry, and I passed it along to Bray. Bray, any update on the trail booklet?
I got your, thank you very much. I got your referral from Mark on the trail map, and I'm still working more on acquiring information and haven't had a chance to really lay it out and try to apply it just yet. I'll see what I can do for our next meeting.
All right. So kind of a template or an outline for the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That does the outreach. The next item is the open space stewardship workbook. So let me stop sharing there. Oh my Lord. Okay, let's share the workbook. Okay. So this is 17 pages. Tom, do you want to talk through this one?
The workbook was developed as an offshoot from the original development from a year ago, when we were going through the process last May, as a compendium. And so what we said, we were going to push that off to 2021. It's now 2021. I've updated this to reflect the final approved versions of the plan, and also some additional information that has come up and been suggested as throughout all these different meetings and everything. So the workbook itself, Larry's got it here. This is pretty much gives you the all the different sections in the table of contents here. Basically it's just kind of going over the purposes, extracting the portions out from the open space plan relative, but focusing on what stewardship plans should be and why we need them, what type of support programs we'd have, and then also a template in the appendices that would outline what a actual stewardship plan is. And that's principally comes from the Land Trust Alliance and their standards that is accepted by both GOSA and Avalonia, other major owners in town, that the town's not using. So as far as, this kind of goes into the different groups that own open space areas within the town. We have a section in here that Larry's got up on the screen right now relative to the different groups between the public facilities, the schools, parks and recs, trustees, and then what's ever left over, and some examples in each one. The stewardship, I'm really not going to go spend much time on as far as on why that there's open space. This is pretty much all just extracted out of the map from the original plan. Same goes for the vision, and all this is just extracted, just pulled over from the basic plan. We get into the ordinance. This is going to probably need some, after our final earlier discussions today, this is going to need some reworking, whatever we come up with. So this is pretty much, put like a yellow highlight in this area. Still needs work in this area right now. And so as far as on where we're actually going to go, but this was the best guess at the time that I had earlier from last month where we were heading with this. And then the focus is basically on areas and coming up with the largest areas where we would recommend. And that's what this list here is: the Sparkle Lakes Conservation and the Joel Kalinowski Conservation area. trying to put a stewardship plan together for that areas. Take a look up at the northeast corner with the Wells Road, Cary Farm combined area. Then one in the central area where the Boulder Heights is right now along I-95 and some of the apartments areas there. The Fleet Bank subdivision, I don't know if I still have yet to get out to that to take a look at that property to see what kind of condition it is. And likewise with the Breezy Knoll Drive open space, I haven't really spent any time there. So these are large areas greater than 10 acres that should come up that need some tender loving care to some degree and some stewardship of it, but it has not been looked at really by the town in a number of areas and years, as far as that I know of. I don't know if Bray has any history on anybody doing anything with these properties, but I haven't, and that's why these were identified. What I came up with is Tom Olson's recommendation for the initial action items for focusing in on 5 different parcels fairly much across the town, but that have been basically disregarded in regard to put in any kind of, the only one here that has obviously some thing is the Sparkle Lakes Conservation Area, is that because Parks and Recs, that's fairly new, and that they actually, when they went and did all the marking on that stuff, it's very well done there. And they're mowing it and that type of stuff. But when you need to take a look and go north of it to those other areas. So then this tells you to go to the template and I take this as we parceled that down. So that's an appendix. Then we have the green belts as far as on the expansions, as far as on what areas, what we should be looking at there in regard to how to take a look at those. And a future action item for 22, 23, or 2020, 22, 23, as far as putting a management plan together, as far as how are we going to actually implement the green belts and get them and take a look at potential stewardship for that. And then likewise, the volunteer program and the open space education, which is, I think we just need to expand on these as we're developing our way through this and the outreach program that we've talked about earlier here. And so the action items in the standards format here for the 5 action items that I had made a recommendation on, which is the 5 largest parcels or combination of parcels to put a management plan together. Likewise, a future, it's a midterm, out 5 years, and then the support programs, what we're doing right now. So that pretty much gives you a good summary of what's in here, puts the actions together, and where we're heading with the whole thing. So that's all I was going to say about this at this time. Thank you.
Okay, we got a number of hands up. I don't know who's first, so Ann. Okay.
Hi, this is Ann Schmidt. I just had a couple questions. For example, the volunteer land stewardship program, who would be, who's going to be responsible for coordinating that? Or does that go back to who's, is it going to be Parks and Rec or utilities or us?
For Tom Olson's perspective right now, we know that in the big picture, getting volunteers to support these type of actions, working with the town is probably the right thing to do, and what's recommended from other communities in regard to how do you get more effectiveness without requiring staff.
Right. Okay.
This is really working with and that's why Parks and Rec. I think one of the things that we're not looking at and that we probably should be is potentially taking a look at their foundation and their volunteer support. They have a very large volunteer base, and if we could get some of those somewhat redirected and coordinate with that, I think this may answer this question as far as to kind of get either an outlet here. And I think we know that we need to get some kind of volunteer program here. We're trying to take the initiative as the Conservation Commission to say, hey, I think there's a need here. How we go execute this is a midterm thing. It's going to take a couple of years to get this together, and working and getting suggestions such as what we put on the website here this past week here, getting to see who's interested there and what could be developed. And I think it's kind of opened up, but we're more of a coordinator to get something going, to work with the town to get some responsibility in place is what I envision here.
But do you envision that the Conservation Commission would be going with the volunteers out to sites, or is it another department within the town of Groton.
Here
Or a
again,
combination.
it's probably going to end up as a combination where we're, as the Conservation Commission, recognizing that there is a need out there for
Mhm.
some of these parcels that have not been directly working with Parks and Recs in the past, and to instigate getting some action in those areas. So I think that's our responsibility.
Oh, well, I
But
saw,
what-
yep. I did see a couple of other, there was a website of a town in Massachusetts, and I don't remember now off the top of my head, but they actually had a form online that people could fill out to volunteer for stewardship activities with their Conservation Commission. The other thing that I kind of was thinking about, is there a way to partner with the schools, like a high school environmental club or something like that, or middle school even? And then the fourth thing is that I think in the GC3 output, or in some of the discussions, so this is the Governor's Council on Climate Change, there was some talk about getting a youth conservation group back up and running in Connecticut. So I don't know if that would be through the state or whatever, but that's something I think we should just keep our eye out on. Just a couple things. I mean, I think your idea of having, I think it's got to be developed, and we'll see where it ends up.
And that was the only intent here, is to, at least we got it down in a document here where we want to go as the commission. And I think that's why this is a workbook. It's a working document. It can change. And
Yep.
that as we get ideas coming in and what can be executed, but I think there is a need here relative to having a stewardship program put in place, and it's a matter of that development. It's going to take some time, but we need to, but I think the biggest pushback is relative. The staff does not want to take this on. So who can take us on? And that's why I think we need to approach the volunteer elements within the community to see what resources are available, and then help that coordination effort as the commission.
Michelle?
It's Michelle Fitzpatrick. Tom, great job getting us started. And those are awesome comments about volunteers. I think we've got interesting places to go with this. I have one very, very minor comment. In 3.1, background is one word. Yeah, I told you it was minor.
All right. Other comments? All right. I think, let's see, you all have this document, is that correct?
Yes.
Yep, okay. What I would ask, if there's any things like the word background and other things or comments you'd like to make, is to get those up and just send them individually to Tom as comments, etc. I think on and I may give you some words on the volunteer land, because the King Kolaski project is in fact a volunteer stewardship program that's coordinated between the GCA and the town parks and recs. So my intent on that video I mentioned was to advertise it, give a little thing that says other groups or other neighbors, because it's neighbors around that specific property, like the Noang School, they can do similar things. So I agree with you. It's not ours to own, but it's ours to nurture, if you will, or recognize, or, say, hey, if you want something here like the Flanders Road, the local people did some stuff. I mean, it seems like that one's ripe for getting some, a local group of folks to do something, et cetera, et cetera. And you do these one at a time. So I'll think about getting you input. So it's on the workbook is input to Tom. Okay. All right. Now we're going to talk about booze. The NIPS survey. Hey, Bruce, I converted yours to a PowerPoint because the pages were all kind of screwed up. Do you have the separate pages? You want me to go use mine?
What about if I share my screen to go over it if you want, just because I have a little bit more than what you have.
Oh,
So I'm
okay,
gonna-
good.
All right, you gotta unshare first, though, Larry.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right. Thought you could throw me off.
No, I don't. Well, I could probably ban you, but that's about it. Let me. Okay. Can everybody see this?
Yes.
Does that work,
Yes.
everyone? All right. So, and Larry, you can discuss it here, but I have the data trends and individual responses if we want to get into it. But
Can you just make it a little bigger? Maybe?
yeah, well, let me try. I actually don't know if I can. It's probably about as big as I can make it.
Okay.
But yeah, I can just go over this. So we got I think the last time, so last month I think we had about 180 responses, and now we've had over 384 people started the survey so far. You can see here the first question: do you think NIPS, tiny liquor bottles, create a litter problem? We have 9%, 36 saying not a problem, 14% saying a minor problem, then 20% saying somewhat of a problem, and 50% saying a major problem. So I think this skewed a little bit towards little to no problem since the last meeting, but it's still about 75% saying somewhat of a problem to a major problem to the other 25% saying not a problem or minor problem. And moving on to question number 2, do you support the elimination of NIPS? So we have 27% saying they do not support it, 7% saying little support, 9%, almost 10% saying somewhat support, and then another 50% saying highly support. So this is about 65% saying they support elimination of NIPS, and a good 35, almost 40% saying they do not support it. That's a big change from last time. I think the last time it was about 80-20, 80% support, 20 to not. So it's a little bit shift there. Question number 3, do you support state legislation to ban NIPS statewide? We have 30% saying no, 5% saying a little support, and then 10% and 60% saying somewhat support or highly support. So it's about a 35-65 split on whether or not they support or do not support NIPS. All right, a ban for NIPS statewide. Then town demographics, we have 332, 97% being a resident. Only 4 people said they were a business owner, and 6 people said they were a business owner who serves liquor directly to consumers. So although we have 332 people who are just residents, there's only 10 business owners, but which is kind of interesting because it was still kind of skewed more towards negative, even though I think last time we had 3 business owners, now only 7 more business owners took the survey. So I don't know if you want me to go into any data trends here or anything, Larry, but
Well, I think it's the split between business owner's view and the other's view. If you got that there.
no, I don't. Like I said at last meeting, they kind of limited the amount of people that could do this. Before I was able to see that, but now I'm not. But I mean, there was only 10 business responses, so I'm not really sure how much that would.
Well, but the interest was because the 10 are important, right? If the 10 10 out of 10 said, you're killing me, this is bad, versus 50% versus 80, so that would be, that would be useful data on those 10. If we got a spreadsheet of the individual responses, we could figure it out ourselves unless the system provides that cut.
It does. I can't, I don't think I can get it right now without going through all these individual responses. I mean, that would take a long time. So what I can do is I think I can share this link with everyone so they can look at it. And I can also try to get that specific question answered from Parks and Rec, who kind of control the Survey Monkey. So I think I could say, if someone answered question 4 as a business owner, how did they respond to questions 1, 2, and 3? And I think they'd be able to provide me with that, and I could share it with everyone.
Yep, and it's just the 10. I mean, so 10 is small enough that even if we had to look at the individual data, we could just construct that ourselves. That's not a big deal.
Yeah.
All right, so it's if I think about when we did the plastic bag, that was I'm trying to remember, Kristen, maybe you can remember, was that an 80-20 split?
85, I think it was on the order of 83-17 or something. It was pretty high.
Yeah. So let's call it, if it's 80-20, we're now down to 2/3. It's like the 2/3, 1/3. So there's less, I don't know what the word is, enthusiasm on that. The number of people are about the same. We had like 400 something folks.
485, I think, or something.
Yeah, something like that. And this is 384. Statistically, that's not actually a difference. I mean, so if we got more folks, I wouldn't expect this to change all that much. Given my recollection of the stat tables. So the thing is, okay, we have this data. It's not an 80-21. It's a 67-33 one. It still is a clear majority. If this was the Senate, you'd have a majority rule, right? 60%. So I think our obligation is to pass this on to the town council. And it suggests, I guess the question is, what should, from a commission point of view, what conclusions do we want to pass along, or do we just want to pass along raw data? So what's your druthers, guys? Let me throw it out there. Oh, Kristen, I'm sorry.
I think as a commission, I mean, we're really focused on reducing the plastic in the environment for all the reasons we all know about. And we all know it's a huge problem. So somebody who's answered on the survey that they don't think it's a problem, they're clearly not walking anywhere outdoors with their eyes open. So I think from a Conservation Commission standpoint, I think we should take a pretty strong stand on it. And you do have a substantial majority here that supports. So I wouldn't want to just kind of like, oh, let's just pass it on with no opinion. I think we should have an opinion on it.
All right, that's why I'm throwing it open for discussion. Mm-hmm. So we have one vote for a strong position. All right, other folks? Michelle?
It's Michelle Fitzpatrick. I do think that, I mean, even though we only had 10 business owners, I agree with Larry that it would be interesting to see what they said. And whether our assumption that they're the hell no, we don't want to do this is true or not. And I also, I don't have any problem with taking a stand, but we also need to make sure that we're upfront about the numbers. And yeah, it's a majority, but it's still, admit that it's not the level of majority that was to the plastic in general. I think we need to acknowledge that.
All right, other comments? Ann?
Yeah, I agree with Kristen, and Michelle. I think we can acknowledge what the survey said, but I think as a commission, we should take a strong stance that we need to eliminate as much plastic as possible.
Well, hold on, Kristen. Other folks want their first, Bray?
I agree that we take a strong position. What Ann was just saying, that It's a pollutant that's out in the environment. It's both glass as well as plastic. Something needs to be done about it, as we have done with plastic bags. And we're not suggesting what has to be done. That's for somebody else. So what we're simply saying is, here's the problem. We think we feel very strongly that this problem needs to be addressed. And we feel that the nip bottles have to get out of the environment. And from the data that we've shown in the survey, I would say that it supports that. But we're not beating up on the liquor store owners.
Right.
We're staying clear of that.
All right. Other folks that haven't said anything yet before I do round two?
Aaron.
Ron? Oh,
Yeah,
go
I agree that the commission needs, that we should take a strong stand. But I also, because we all know that plastic is not a good thing in our environment, but I also think it's important that we point out the size of the survey, and that we, if we can find out what the businesses have said, that should be included in that. But as a commission, I think we need to stand firmly and make a strong statement.
All right. Tom, you had your hand up?
Yeah, there's two things going on in my viewpoint here. One is that there's a group within the state that is looking for support. And are we trying, is our recommendation is to the town council to support the initiative that's being presented to this at the state level? And then secondly, if we're not going to go that way, are we saying that we want to go and put a second version for just the town of Groton in our plastics ordinance as far as expansion? That's where I'm scratching my head as far as this. Are we taking these results and some of the comments that are being made, are we saying that we want to go and do a modification to expand and get rid of NIPS in Groton only? That's where I'm a little confused here.
Yeah, we started this off when we started the survey. The commission took the position that we wanted to support the state effort versus creating a Groton ordinance. And we would readdress that if in fact the state effort failed. So it was kind of what do you do first? So that's kind of where we were before. Did the data make any changes to that? My view is, I don't think so with a 2/3, 1/3. If we came back 80-20, 90-10, then, maybe we might be more aggressive locally. Round two, Kristen, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, I think this is something that we should take a leadership position on. And I think the enthusiasm for the plastic ordinance grew a lot based on the work that we did. But that, mostly this work is happening at the state level. And I think the whole idea was just for us to recommend to the town as a commission that we believe the town should be supporting the state ordinance. And I think that was our charge, and I think that's what we should do. But I think we should definitely do that.
All right, so I think there's a consensus that our recommendation is a strong support of the state's NIPS ban. And again, if that gets reduced to 25%, the fee, that's a different discussion entirely. B, obviously we have to present the data because we did the survey and they know we did the survey, get the business information, et cetera. I guess my next question is, that would go as a letter to the town manager. And I would be looking for a volunteer to take a first whack at a draft of that document, given the discussions we've just had. I see Kristen.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. All right. Yep. Be more than happy to work with you. I guess I'm supposed to sign that stuff, right? To do that, and I'll continue to work with Bruce on the data. So there's not a lot of data here. I think most of it is right here that he presented. I think we need clean sheets, Bruce, of the pages. I'm sure that can be extracted somehow, as well as that extra data point. But I don't think we need much more than that. I think we can work from there. All right, very good, thank you. Kristen.
Well, do we have a
All
time?
right.
When do we want this letter by?
I'm trying to remember there wasn't when the state sets their agenda, I thought they were going to do that. That typically is done in January when they set it up. Then they go through their long deliberations. I would think that this doesn't need to be tied to our calendar for the months. I would just think, my view is do it and get it done with. So if we could get it out in the next couple of weeks, just get the letter out, and then we just check this off our tiki column and see if the town council wants to ask for more help or something, right? Like, oh, gee, could you help us do an education program? We can, if they come back with that, then we can address that as a group, at an upcoming meeting. All right, moving along to 4.6. We're almost done for tonight. This is just some actions that was going on. The GNS Trolley Trail Grant. I'm trying to remember did that come from you, Tom, or did that come from Bruce?
Well, I was at in my role with the Tri-Town Trail and also helping support the Trails Task Force. We reported that the Mark Berry had made a submission. He had briefed us at the meeting I attended for the Trails Task Force, and that has now come to fruition. That they did get the grant like in the last week or so, and so they made all the announcements on that. And I had attended that Trails Task Force meeting and had reported back here to the Conservation Commission about that was one of the actions on there. And in regard to it, I know that there's a lot of discussion from the town's perspective. The town councilors are very concerned as far as for the implementation of this in regard to what's going to be happening along Depot Road and the Midway Oval area to connect these parks and open space areas that abut the trolley trail there as they try to expand. And you have a map in the package today at the very end that kind of outlines what areas are and what open space connections are there. So it was just more for information. There's no action from as far as from the commission.
Yep, it's in there, page 82. It's kind of neat, and kudos to the Parks and Rec for getting that money to support that. So that's a good thing. The other item was the Connecticut National Estuarian Research Reserve. I can't say that. Deals with water and stuff. Anyway, they've got a thing coming up. I guess they've got a 10-part exercise coming up and a kickoff. When is that? Next week? Let's see. I'm looking it up on Wednesday. There's a kickoff on Wednesday, a strategy discussion on Thursday, and then they go into like subcommittees and a lot of different stuff. So I had asked if Ray would kind of coordinate for us on that. And his view is let them go do their item, and we can kind of look at the output from it. For my own view, is I thought I would just jump in on the Wednesday and Thursday just to get a sense of what the heck they're doing, and then wait till the end. So that's kind of the suggestion. Does anyone want to get more specifically involved than that high level view? Tom?
Well, the reason we're kind of tracking this is that we have an action item for this year to be supporting as they're developing their environmental impact statement. That's what and they've got a series over the course of this month here, about 12 different sessions that they'll be having Zoom contacts with. This is one of the major areas is here in Groton for the NER, what they call the NER. It's at Avery Point, Bluff Point combination there, along as well over on along. There's two other sites that make up the whole NER area on the Connecticut River. So for the Groton stuff, obviously this is bringing big dollars, you know, from a national perspective. There's a lot of there's already NERs in just about on all the other coast states along the eastern seaboard here, as well as in the Midwest. But so this being part of Groton, I think it's appropriate that we at least listen into it and provide any inputs as far as for areas of where they can partnership with if there's anything from the town that they need. We should be the coordinating effort with them, and so it's important to at least have a point of contact with them. I know that I've been getting on their distributions previously, because that's come up on this. I did one of their initial briefs, and then included all that made sure it was put into the open space conservation plan. And so I have been tracking that, and I'll probably listen in as far as anything that affects the plan. And they already have my point of contact information also, so I'll be logging into a couple of those sessions also.
Is there a menu somewhere for that? Do we receive a link of the menu?
Yep. I thought it was in the. Did you send that out, Bruce, or is that? I'm not trying.
No, I didn't. We got it last Friday. I'm actually I'm emailing it to everyone right now. It's a schedule for it.
Is it the kind of thing you can jump on just passively and tune in?
Yes.
Or do you have to sign up?
Yes. Nope. Yep. I mean, you have to sign up to be allowed into the web conference, but you don't have to do anything. So I was just going to sign in. Matter of fact, I've got the site. You go to their site, and you could download their. I think you have to register, and you get a site, and it's just a WebIndex, so you don't have to do anything. So with the document that Bruce is sending out, you can get to the point. If you have a problem, let me know, and I got the link directly. That's logged into my calendar for tomorrow and Thursday was the ones I was going to attend. And based upon what they say, I think what Tom says is there somewhere where we can inject ourselves to help promote the cause of getting federal funding to support Groton. That'd be great. I don't know yet because we haven't. I don't know. Haven't had the item yet. So Connecticut NER. There we go. All right. So that's that. All right. Page 2. All right. Well, given the hour, the 2020 objectives, let me just do this. Oops. One of the things I did, and I'll just share it to you. We won't really discuss it. I'll just throw it up there. What I've been doing is kind of tracking these, and you'll see, here's my legend here, completed and those that have been updated. So I've been trying to go through this, some of the green things, and we have completed stuff, right? I mean, real quick, right? There's a gray one. We've made a NER process underway, because we just talked about that. And some of the things that were completed, and eventually we get all green. This is just kind of keeping us honest. And this is, I was adding in the workbook actions, Tom, to this list just to keep everything on one list. So that's kind of an FYI, and I'll just be sharing that as just a way of tracking it. It's not a published document per se, although every once in a while I am going to throw it out on the website. I do have this version out on the website so that people could kind of see the actions that are there. So let me get rid of that, stop sharing. And given the hour I won't spend any more time on it. We'll pick out specific actions and deal with them on the agenda items as we do it. The other items is Connecticut Trails Day. Do we know when that is, Bruce?
I believe it's the first Saturday in June. I don't have the date in front of me. Sure. I know it's always that day.
Now, typically, we're getting late. I mean, usually we kind of sign up. Although this year's COVID year, huh?
June 5th.
We seem to have missed it for a while. I think we missed it a few times, sign up date.
Well,
We just
yeah.
did- Last year was the film video.
Oh, right. Yeah. We got the same problem this year, I think. Well, or maybe not. So I
There's
guess,
supposed to be
yeah, what do you guys want to do, Tom?
Well, I received the email, I forwarded it along to Bruce and I think to Bray, was that there's supposed to be a Trails Leader workshop like in the next week or something. And that they're going to outline what the plans are for this year, because it's going to be kind of a COVID related.
Right.
So I know that they were looking for that.
All right. So I guess the suggestion is we wait for that workshop and see what the direction is, and then we'll have to determine our participation. Is that where we're at? Okay. All right. That's it. I'm now moving on to the report of the chairman. So real quickly is Mystic River Bluff. There were several town sessions on that. I also had some offline conversations with I guess the consultant to the developer on creation of an economic impact model to the town. So what we kind of did a handshake on is that they would provide us, or he would provide us, their economic impact analysis, that we would do our economic impact analysis on that property, and then go forward from there. So we've kind of already discussed this. There's a big section of protected conservation space that's part of the plan. And our last letter input was to say, if you recall, is we said that we would support it, but we wanted to see the final plans. We wanted to make sure there was protection. We wanted to make sure the trails were there. We wanted to make sure there was access to the public, yada, yada, yada. So we're kind of chunking through that. This is going to take a while on it. And there's a number of articles, pros and cons on it. But when I get more data on it, I will let you know. The other one is Tom and I did the Thames River presentation on the 19th. We got no to-dos out of it. I think somebody warned me about that last time. Don't get any to-dos. So they thanked us for our input, and that was it. On the January 26th, there was a town council meeting on 517, 529 Gold Star Highway. That's chugging along. That's been chugging along since 2017, as I recall that presentation. And there's not a lot at this point that we can have input or not. That's been approved and moving forward. And the last one was the synthetic grass, which we already talked about with Liz, and that one we'll be following up on as other actions. And that's the end of the agenda. So.
Report of staff?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot about Bruce.
No problem. Thanks.
How did I forget about Bruce?
Sure. I don't really have anything else to add. It's just an update on 529 Gold Star Highway property that Larry just mentioned. They did already have the public hearing to sell the property, but there was kind of there was kind of a snafu with there was under state law, you're supposed to post a sign on the front of the property, and there was some communication, and a sign wasn't posted. So they need to redo the public hearing for the sale of the property. So if anyone individually missed the opportunity to speak and want to now, you still can. Just know, it was already approved, but I want to let everyone know that that should be coming up. I don't know the day of it, but I think it's probably going to be this month that public hearing is going to happen. I think that's all I have. I'm going to send everyone, I already sent everyone the NER email with that schedule, and I'm going to get everyone the information about the NIPS information and follow up with everyone on that. That's all I have.
All right. Any other? Michelle,
I move we adjourn.
Right,
is there a second? Do I hear a second?
yes.
I hear a second from Bray. Is there any discussion? I hear no discussion. All in favor to adjourn? All right, we are officially adjourned. Thank you all. We had, I think, a lot of stuff we talked about. And I think we said this was the year of execution. And this is kind of what we're doing, right? We're executing, which is good stuff. It's good stuff. All right, we'll see you next month. A few of you I'll talk to before then for the follow-ups that we had. Thank you all. Have a great evening and don't go outside.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
I'm going outside. It's nice here.
Oh, yeah, well,
No, stay inside.